Well, hey there, Yancy. Today we're going to be talking about solving multi-step equations when we have variables on both sides of the equals. Now, before we get started, we have a few pro tips, so pay attention. First things first, you got to figure out what it is that you're trying to do. The goal of this type of problem is to figure out what value you can plug in for your variable that's going to produce the same value on both sides of the equals after you plug it in. Now, you could guess and check until the cows come home, Yancy, but that's not efficient. We're going to use algebra because that works every time. Now, I know there's an awful lot of people who don't like fractions out there in the world, but they exist and you're going to have to deal with them. So either learn how to cope or go cry to your mama, and she probably doesn't care either. But lucky for you, you got me to teach you how to put your big boy and girl pants on. If you got fractions on either side of the equation, just multiply everything by the common denominator of all the fractions, and that'll get rid of them. See, ants? All you gotta do is multiply. You've been doing that forever, so quit complaining! Now this one's probably the most important one on the list. If you gotta solve an equation with variables on both sides of the equals, make sure to take the one with the lesser coefficient over to the opposite side. This is going to guarantee that you have a positive coefficient every time, and that's going to make your division and multiplication later a whole lot easier. And finally, Yants, I already went over a lot of the skills that are in this video, so I'm not going to waste my breath on that again. If you're confused, watch the Auducation video called Solving Multi-Step Equations, Common Problems for a better review with yours truly. Now let's get to work! Our first two examples here are like the ones from the other multi-step equation video, just with an extra step. And if you're worried about fractions, relax, Yants, those will come soon enough. Our first example is 2x minus 9 equals 5x plus 12. Remember, we're trying to find the value for x that's going to produce the same value on each side of the equation. We're going to use algebra to figure that out, Yants. How? By remembering the tips from the top of the page. First things first, you got to take your lesser value of x over to the opposite side of the equation. Our lesser value is 2x, so we're going to subtract that from both sides of the equals. That gives us negative 9 equals 3x plus 12. Now that 3 being positive is going to help us out later when we have to divide it away. Of course, we can't do that yet because we got to get rid of that 12. Minus it from both sides, and we get negative 21 equals 3x, and now we're dividing by a positive, which is way better than dividing by a negative. Final answer, negative 7. So far, so easy, ants. Our next example is negative 3x plus 11 equals negative 8x plus 1. Now this time, even though it looks like it's a bigger number, the negative 8 is actually the lesser value. So add it to both sides and watch as we get a positive coefficient in front of our x. We get 5x plus 11 equals 1. Obviously, we got to get rid of that 11, and we're going to do it by minusing. That's going to give us 5x equals negative 10. Now we divide by our 5. And that's going to give us a final answer of x equals negative 2. This is so easy, it's getting boring. Now I threatened you with fractions, and I'm a man of my word. Let's see what these problems look like. Our first example is 2/3 x minus 2 equals 3/4 x plus 1. Our second tip told us if we want to get rid of the fractions, we got to multiply both sides by the common denominator of the fractions on both sides. This time our fractions have denominators of 3 and 4. So the common denominator, aka the least common multiple of our two fractions, is 12. Make sure you multiply everything by this 12, Yants, or you're gonna mess up! Are you ready for some magic? 12 divided by 3 is 4 times 2 is 8x. And 12 times 2, that's 24. 12 divided by 4 is 3 times 3 is 9x. And 12 times 1 is 12. This is like the problems above. Take your smaller value of x over to the opposite side. This time we'll take 8x away from both sides. That's going to give us negative 24 equals positive 1x plus 12. Now we got to get rid of that 12. Just subtract it. Final answer, negative 36 equals x. Look at how smart you can sound when you quit all your belly aching, Yants. Let's take a look at a ridiculous example. 3/5 x plus 5/6 equals 7/15 x minus 1/10. Now this time we have an unprecedented 4 fractions with different denominators. Don't go weeping into your pillows yet. It's not that bad. We got 5 and 6 and 15 and 10. What do these numbers got in common? They all multiply to 30. So, if we gotta multiply everything by something, 30 is a pretty good bet. Remember to multiply everything times 30, or you're gonna mess up. Now, 30 divided by 5 is 6 times 3 is 18x. 30 divided by 6 is 5 times 5 is 25. 30 divided by 15 is 2 times 7 is 14x. And 30 divided by 10 is 3 times 1 is 3. This is like our first problems again. Take your smaller value of x from both sides, and that's going to guarantee that we have a positive number in front of the x when we're ready to do our division. 18 minus 14 is 4x. We still have that 25, and the whole thing equals negative 3. Now we got to get the 4x by itself. How are we going to do that, Yance? By doing the same thing we do every time. Move that 25 over by subtracting, and that's going to give us 4x equals negative 28. And then, of course, you know by now to divide by 4 to get rid of that 4 to give us a final answer of x equals negative 7. See, Ants? Nothing to get worked up about, even in the toughest examples. Of course, if you are still having trouble, you're always welcome to watch the video again. And definitely pay attention to the tips at the top. But for now, I gotta get some herbal tea and relax. So get the heck out of my hair!